And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Peter Murphy Lewis. Peter Murphy Lewis, welcome to Experts Speak. How are you today?
Boom. Happy to be here, Michael.
Great. I am so glad that you're here. We're going to have a phenomenal conversation. When he joined, he's like, Michael, you're about the only guy on earth that has more energy than me. And so it's going to be a buckle your seatbelt interview. I know. So
Correction. I said you terrify me because I've never met anyone crazier than me. So the verb was terrify.
there you go. Terrify. I love that. So what we're going to do, Peter does a lot of things. He's been around the block a few times, and he's been in different countries that we might talk about because all of that experience plays into the fact that what we're talking about today is the value of having a chief marketing officer come in and really help you build some strategy in your business versus just hiring another agency or doing whatever. And just some of the questions that don't get asked so much, we're going to ask them today and see how we can help our audience grow better. So as we do that and take that dive off that high dive, Peter, tell me, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
I'll give you the abbreviated version, and then if you want to ask some follow-up questions, we'll get into the weeds.
All right.
So I started a travel company in South America when I was 27 years old. It was 2007. And that company grew rather quickly. I got a New York Times twice. Paul McCartney took tours with us. Beyonce hired us. Aerosmith came into our office. And I sold that company last year. And while I was creating that company, I got into television in South America. I have a couple TV shows. And from the TV shows, then I got into private equity turnaround as an operator. So I became the vice president of marketing for a company that was failing, that a private equity had acquired as a distressed asset. And they wanted us to turn it around, and we exited. That experience, those kind of three or four things that I shared with you, I realized helped me solve unique problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I enjoy the most. So the job that I could do that helped me do that most frequently in those areas was a fractional chief marketing officer, which means that I help anywhere from 2 to 5 large clients at a time solve problems and get a return on investment in everything related to marketing and strategy.
Love that. Thank you for that. You met some big dogs. Aerosmith. That's kind of cool. Um,
Yeah, when Steven Tyler came into the office, I knew that he was going to be coming in. I didn't tell my team. And the our head receptionist had met him a couple times. She's a fanatic. I think she's the craziest fanatic that I know of Aerosmith. He came into the office and she about flipped. One of the guys took off his t-shirt and passed him a permanent marker and asked Steven Tyler to sign his chest, and he did.
that's awesome. I love stuff like that, man. Those are experiences and that nobody else has, right? Those are unique things, and that's what we want to do. It's funny, unique experiences, stories like that capture our attention. People are my audience will remember that story a long time, and the same thing can be true in marketing. And if you do marketing well, you can get a great return on investment. The challenge is, as you know, Peter, it's just downright hard to do marketing because nobody really teaches it. And if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, dude, I got into business because I had a great idea and I went out and I got some clients. And I thought this is going to work. And then it's like, well, where am I going to find the rest of them? Right. And
Mm.
so I went to your website and I saw this great quote you have. And I think it just resonates with so many entrepreneurs that I've spent so much on marketing with zero returns until dot, dot, dot. Right. And
Mhm.
I think business owners are they're on that. It's not just a hamster wheel. It's a hamster wheel that then they get out of and they go to another hamster wheel. They're buying shiny objects, a lot of times myths and hype, going from one agency to another, and they're missing an element because you shouldn't have to go from one to the next to the next to the next with a lot of frustration. Is that kind of a fair summary?
Yeah, fair summary. And to add some extra verbiage to what they're running into, they're often buying tactics. And these tactics and trends might work for 3 months. They might work for 6 months. If you're lucky, they might work for a year. And then they get overplayed, the market gets saturated with it. And the problem is those tactics weren't built upon a foundation or pillars with strategy that will last long term. So
Yeah.
I love marketing agencies. I actually hire marketing agencies for my company, and I have a team of more than 15 people, and I hire marketing agencies. But someone has to own the strategy, and you can't outsource that to
Mm,
an agency. You have to go one step above.
okay. And one step above the agency would be what?
Well, in a perfect world, it's the CEO. If the
Right.
CEO is a non-marketer or is not involved with that part of the business or their product or their technical or so forth, then you need to have somebody on your executive team who's good at that. And if you don't have someone on your executive team, you need to hire someone. Here's where the fractional chief marketing officer comes in, because people, 10 years ago, smaller companies that were 200,000 to $2 million, they couldn't hire a chief marketing officer. So that's, salary, that's $250,000 to $450,000 depending on where you live in the United States. You can't afford that if that's your revenue. So they hire a mid-level marketing manager who doesn't have the strategy experience, nor do they have the oversight to look and supervise a marketing agency. This is why a new place has been built. It's not a freelance marketer, it's not a consultant, it's a person who's held accountable but has a strategy. And so you're getting a chief marketing officer with all of their expertise, 100% of their expertise, for a fraction of the cost, because they're giving you 5 to 10 to 15 hours of their expertise, and you don't have to pay them for 100% of their time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we could probably pause here and just dive deep into the strategy element, because um, business owners, by and large, I know there are exceptions, but they're so busy trying to run their business, whether it's a financial advisor, an attorney, a car repair shop, doesn't matter. We're out there trying to generate the revenue. We don't think strategy. And then we get sold a bill because somebody graduated from some course and they have a plaque on their wall saying, I'm a whatever. And they,
Mhm.
they run to the tactic because they see all the posts and all the social media things. Oh, it helped me, it helped me. But you're right, they're typically short lived. Whereas a strategy is that long term direction that is going to help you navigate kind of the ups and downs of the market.
Mhm.
And that's a that's a different skill set.
Mhm.
And when I always love going, and I think small business owners look at big companies and try to emulate them. So
Mhm.
like Apple, right? All
Mhm.
we see in Apple is Steve Jobs. We don't see the dozens of people at that leadership level, the conversations he's having with their marketing team who have marketing people to make it all happen. And I think so many times small business owners think the entrepreneur makes it all happen. And the reality is they don't. They bring people like you in at a high level to go, how do we do this? So that that's it, that's kind of what's missing in small to medium sized businesses, is that strategy piece where you're you're getting involved with that owner,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's, as far as I know, I've never heard of a marketing agency where the person who's delivering the execution shows up at an executive meeting, right? There's probably something out there, but it's not common. They're doing execution, and it's someone below the owner of the marketing agency. Whereas when you need strategy, you need someone, first of all, identifying what are the problems, and then you need to come up with a couple different concepts of how to address that problem. You're getting close to strategy there, and you're going to fail a couple times. Marketing agencies are fantastic at executing upon one, two, maybe three things, but they are selling you a productized service that might not actually line up with the strategy that you need to meet your business goals. That's why a chief marketing officer or a fractional one goes to your leadership meeting. They go to your executive meeting. They meet one on one with the CEO, and they're responsible for quarterly and annual goals.
Yeah, that doesn't get said. People, agencies don't do that. Agencies want to, dare I say, onboard you with a form, right? Tell me your target audience, tell me what you do, and then so many times it feels like pull off the shelf, put them in plan C,
Hmm.
because they don't take the time. They might ask the questions, but it's incumbent upon the business owner to understand the strategy, which
Hmm.
many times they're not qualified to do because they don't get all of this
Hmm.
just because they're great at what they do. If they do, sometimes they're choosing maybe the wrong agency to help them execute it, or they may have the right agency but the wrong strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all convoluted in the mind of the business owner who's trying to make all this happen versus saying, "Hey, I'm going to partner with somebody who's, oh, dare I say, smarter than me in that area,
Mm-hmm.
praise God, and
Mm-hmm.
who I will form a relationship with that's going to last longer than 90 days
Mm-hmm.
because marketing doesn't happen overnight many times. But when you build that strong foundation of strategy, then you can roll out a dozen different tactics. That's irrelevant once you have the strategy right. Am I
Yeah,
on the
kind of to that point, this isn't a set in stone process, but I like to think if you are a sales driven organization or you are focused around your revenue and you're not product driven, that about 50% of your marketing quarterly goals should be to support the sales quarterly goals.
Mhm.
And the remaining 50% should be thinking of something as more midterm or long term. So maybe annual goals, or maybe even something way bigger like branding around where you need to be in positioning 2 years from now. There is no marketing agency who can fill the remaining 50% of that around strategy. If you give them the strategy to do the quarterly goals, they can do a fantastic job. Michael, speaking to your point about hiring a great agency that doesn't have the strategy to do what they should focus on, I have walked into clients, private equity client, who had 3 or 4 disjointed marketing agencies, and they had marketing chaos, and one of the marketing agency was doing a fantastic job on something that didn't help us with our bottom line. We fired the marketing agency. The marketing agency was doing such a great job that I hired them for a client who needed them to do what they were doing well for the private equity. So
Mhm.
slow down and determine what you need to do, how you're going to get there. If you fail, what are the leading metrics and trailing metrics to make sure that you can keep a scorecard or you can keep a check on them, and then you need to be able to pivot.
Yeah. That's so good. And the other thing you've said like 3 or 4 times now is quarterly goals. And I think entrepreneurs come into the year going, "Okay, this is going to be the year we're going to do this," but they don't break it down. And if they do break it down, they really don't have a plan for quarterly, monthly, dare I say weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so many times our goals are focused on the result
Mm-hmm.
versus the activities that need to take place to get me there with
Mm-hmm.
indicators. How
Yep.
many outreaches did you do this week, this day?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, maybe more importantly, how many conversations did you actually have? Because I
Yep.
can do 100 outreaches and get nothing. Oh, I got 100 in. Well, no, 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 no. It's not how we play
Yep.
the game here, right?
To your point about results instead of how to get there, when I was working in for a big turnaround company in 2001, a distressed asset that was acquired. I remember we started off. My favorite methodology for quarterly and annual goals is EOS traction, and the
Mhm.
CEO who hired me, the private equity who hired me, used that methodology. I was excited. Well, the very first quarter, the CEO told me, how many leads you're going to bring in from the podcast, how much traffic you're going to drive from SEO. And I said, we just cleared, I mean, the revenue team, I think they fired 3 or 4 out of 8 in the first month that I got there. And I was truly the first marketing hire and I had to build out a team. I said, how about this? You hold me to serious qualitative and quantitative metrics in Q2, but Q1, I need to get there first. I didn't have a content team, so how am I going to bring in traffic from SEO? I didn't
Yeah.
have anyone on my team to build out assets for ads. I need to get there first. So Q1 was much more about building a foundation, and then
Yeah.
Q2 we could hire agencies.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's brilliant because again, hiring an agency, Dan Sullivan wrote that book a year or two ago, Who Not How. And hiring an agency kind of flows that is as a business owner, you don't need to understand how to do Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or podcast guesting or anything like that. You need to understand the strategy behind that. Maybe that's when you bring an agency in and dare I say, spend some time with them because they all have their intake forms. But to say, you know what, I'll fill out your form, but I really want a conversation for an hour or two because I need you to
Mm-hmm.
understand who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
going back, I'm rereading right now a book that was been on my shelf since 1992, and Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Mm.
Great book. I've read it dozens and dozens of times, and I always go back there. And one of his principles is seek first to understand, then to
Mhm.
be. You've got to understand me to where you can parrot back to me what I just said to you as far as my strategy.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, along those lines, like pare it back. So there's two things that I do to make sure that I am setting a client up for success and setting that client up to be a referral for me in the future. And they're related and they're very closely related to what you said, which is, listening and saying it back. So I do my first month of fractional CMO work always for free with any incoming prospect because I want to make sure one that I can achieve the success that I want because I always share a promise with them. I have a guarantee with all of my clients. It's called the Strategic Peak Promise and I'll explain that in a minute. But the reason that I do that first 4 weeks in a row is because I need to ask the questions to make sure that I can solve their problem. And two, that I'm listening. I need to hear their problem and then state it back, and I need to hear them to acknowledge. Because if I don't get them to acknowledge, then I'm going to start acting on something in the second month when I'm charging them that is the wrong thing. So it's that prep work of listening and assessment that is critical. And then that allows me to offer the strategic peak promise, which is the first 90 days, I charge you half the price of my retainer and you only pay me in full at 90 days once I've reached the goals that we've both agreed upon. Right. But in order for me to offer such a crazy 50% guarantee, I have to be sure that I can deliver upon that.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm wasting my time and my team's time.
That's right. No, I love that because and I love that because what that speaks to me, Pete, is confidence. And you've got a process in place for you and your company that you know works. And I presume that at the end of that 30 days, if for some reason there's a disconnect and there's not understanding, that's the time that we say, all right, let's stop the train. I'm not understanding. We can't go forward because it's going to be a waste of your money, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Client. And
Mm-hmm.
you have those conversations and part company if you need to part company or whatever, realign. No, dare I say, nobody does that, right?
What?
But isn't that what we should be doing?
Well, to those words is if I realize at day 45 that I'm not going to give them a return on investment, do you think I want to work another 45 days at 50%, right? I'm running at a loss or at cost with my team to do that. I'm gonna do exactly what you said. I'm gonna have a frank conversation saying we either need to pivot. I need more information from you so I can pivot and come up with a better strategy. Or if everything you've detailed to me at the beginning was accurate, and now I realize that I can't pull it off, it's time for us to disengage because I'm not going to be able to solve that. And the person's like, okay, like, right, like they would love to have that frank conversation. Most people are fighting to hold a retainer, but if I'm charging you 50% for the retainer, I'm not fighting for that. I'm fighting to make sure that I meet my goals at the end of 90 days.
That's right. That's right. And that is a refreshing approach. And I just sit here and think, wow, what if everybody did business that way? Kind of goes back to Jay Abraham, one of the books I read from him years and years ago, Strategy of Preeminence, always putting your client first, right? And taking all the burden on yourself as much as you possibly can. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what you're doing. Is
Hmm.
saying, I'm going to take the risk away from you. I'm going to
Hmm.
offload. I'm going to carry a lot of the risk. Kind of like two oxen plowing a field, right? They got that thing on their back. It's got a name. I forget what the name is, but
Hmm.
um, that's what you're doing with these clients
Yep.
because you've got. And the cool thing is, Pete, when people hire you, they're not just hiring you. You've got a whole team, right? And
Hmm.
you can come in and get just kind of plugged in to a business, and
Hmm.
because of the wherewithal of your team, you're able to discover with the strategy laid out and bring all the people to bear upon it as needed. Is right?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what is coupled with the guarantee, and I think that this is why I get buy-in so quickly from kind of smart business owners, is that there's risk on their behalf, right? So like if I'm running the risk of bringing all of my team into this blueprint, this playbook, the creating quarterly goals that I'm going to be held accountable for, right? I'm running this risk. Then there's also a risk for the person who's hired me, the CEO. And that risk is because otherwise what I told you with the strategic promise, all that is that's just giving people a discount. I don't give people a discount. I give them a guarantee. And what happens is if they retain me after those 90 days when I've reached those goals, they owe me a 2x bonus of the 50% discount that I gave them on the first 90 days. So
Hmm.
that means if my retainer is $10,000 a month, the first 3 months they're paying $5,000. That means I give them a $15,000 risk-free guarantee. If they retain me at day 91, they owe me the $15,000 times two. It's a $30,000 bonus. Now that allows the CEO to say, hey, at 30 days, they're doing amazing work. I don't want to pay them a bonus for the next 2 months. Let's move up to that retainer. And it
Right.
makes sense because business people understand risk, right? When you hire someone new, Michael, in theory, that person is spending the first 3 to 6 months trying to prove to you that you should hold them. Why can't
Yeah.
we do the same thing with marketing agencies?
That's right. I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. Because the other thing that you're doing, you're bringing to the table, and you keep using the word 90 days and 30 days and hold me accountable. I don't know that a lot of business owners know how to do that, honestly.
Mm,
And I think that's part of the frustration. We expect when we hire an agency for them to perform and them to bring the, and it's as if we're putting all the burden on them. And I'm telling you from a business owner perspective, it's my job.
mm,
It's my job to clarify the vision, to hold you accountable, to have those conversations, and for you to push back. If I say, hey, we're going to start doing this, Peter, and oh, by the way, I want 50 new leads next month, and you're going to say, dude, no, maybe in 2 or 3 months, but
mhm,
we have that, and you don't find that in business because I think so many people just they're hungry for the short-term business. And
mhm.
we've got, as business owners, we have to have a long-term view and build partners who can come in and help us get there.
It is a partnership. It's critical. It's critical. That person has to, the person who hires your next executive, you want that person to feel buy-in like if they were your business partner, even if they're not. You want
Yeah.
them on a Saturday to be thinking about problems. You want them when they're taking a road trip to Dallas, they need to be thinking about these problems. And you're not going to get that from an agency 99% of the time. So,
Yeah.
and if you don't have someone in your team who can hold them accountable, you need to hire someone. And in my opinion, you should hire at a fraction of the cost.
Well, you should. And the other aspect, the beauty of the fractional model is and you mentioned it earlier, is you're getting the 100% of the brilliance. You're getting it maybe 20% of the time because you're working with 5 or 6 other companies, but you're not working with 30 or 40 companies normally as a fractional. Agencies do because they have the model. You talk with the owner, you hire on, you get delegated to somebody else, and you're like, what just happened?
Hmm.
Whereas with a fractional, you talk with the owner, the fractional, you hire them, and guess what? They show up. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, I get to talk with Peter today. Wow, okay. Oh, Peter, you're in my meeting. Oh, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because Peter's the fractional. He's the brilliant guy. He's
Yeah.
he's the guy who makes it. You're the guy who has the team. You're the quarterback. Dare I say, you might even be the coach of the quarterback, right? I don't know if
Mhm.
that's a good analogy or not.
I think it works. Like even and so in my company, we kind of have three three kind of services or products or ways to understand. We have the fractional, what you and I've been talking about. We have a traditional agency, which does the execution for the strategy that I set up. Clients don't have to hire the execution. I'd say 75% of my clients do. And then I have another hat that I wear that you and I haven't spoken about, which is content creation. I do documentary. I shared that I've done a TV show. So I create really big idea projects for larger clients. But back to the point around fractional in the agency. In the last 6 months, Michael, I've hired 2 fractional people to help me and my team. I
Yes.
didn't hire them to do the work. I hired them to oversee my team on learning how to do better YouTube, how to do better clips for LinkedIn, how to do better PR pitching. And that person came in, oversaw my team, set up metrics that I didn't know how to set up, taught my team how to do it, held their hands to the fire for 2 months. I paid that person 10x what we pay our normal team, but that person knew that they were going to be fired in 2 months. That was fine. That's why they were
Yeah.
brought in. That's why they paid. That's what they get charged. What's what they charged
Yeah.
me, and it was worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it would shorten the learning curve, shorten it big time. You got expertise, you got a team now, and you can grow your business because now you've got something in place by bringing in an expert. And you can do that in marketing as well, because before you hire them though, Pete, you're smart enough to know you knew exactly what you were needing. You had the strategy lined out. It was the execution of the tactics that weren't kind of aligned. That's what you brought somebody in for.
Yeah.
Very similarly in marketing, so many times, I think the business owner might not even know the strategy, but talking with you when they bring you on that first month, that's a lot of conversation, a lot of strategy. What are we trying to make happen here so that you can build the team, so that you can build the marketing assets and whatever's needed in order to get the growth. And
Mm.
if the business owner understands that pathway, they're going to be more bought in. They're going to understand, yeah, most time it's not an overnight success. I'm sure you can have that sometimes with seasoned businesses. It's still, it's the word that my son's my chief operating officer. He and I use the word alignment a lot. And
Mhm.
I'm in Kentucky, he's in Nashville, Tennessee, so we're on Zoom, but we have to stay in alignment. Otherwise, our company just starts faltering and we go in 1,000 different ways and we wonder why.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because we have to be in alignment on strategy first. So I love
Mhm.
how you talked about that. So who's a great client for you? What is somebody? What's a business owner kind of struggling with or thinking about for the week or two before they even reach out to you? What's going on in their heart, their life, their mind?
Fantastic question. I have two people that come to mind. So one of them helped me give me the name of my company, Strategic Pete. So this is a client who, when I met them in 2019, they engaged me. They hired me full time for about 6 months in 2020, and they were at, I think, the 3 or 4 million revenue mark, and they're still a client today. They're 2x revenue, and their margins have grown. Their reach is 10x. I have case studies all over my website. You can reach out to them, and they didn't name me chief marketing officer or marketing manager. They named me chief strategy officer. And they knew that they had gone through enough agencies and through enough mid-level marketers that they needed to go a step higher, and they needed to come up with strategy to get to the place that they wanted to be, which is their reach. And now they're a national brand. We run their PPC for them. We help them with SEO. We help them with all things video, and we have a one-on-one with their COO every couple of weeks when she needs it. And to answer your question more directly, what are they thinking about? I'll give you the second instance. So I currently have a prospect right now, large prospect in the M&A sector. He's got kind of 3 different branches to his business, e-com space, and this guy is brilliant. So he's smarter than me in everything that he does in his company, except for maybe marketing strategy. He could teach me 99 things that I don't know how to do and do them well. But he says to me, he goes, I have these 3 things, and I feel like I have some low-hanging fruit around marketing. I don't want to spend $300,000 or $400,000 on a chief marketing officer, and I don't have enough money to do it in all 3 areas. And chief marketing officer in each one of these areas is going to be not going to have carryover between those, because they're M&A and it's different from what he's doing in e-com and so forth and podcasting. And he said, I need someone to check on what my agencies are doing. I need someone to set up the metrics to know what my mid managers are doing in each one of these islands. And then I need you to tell me where I should be spending more time and money to, focus on my 80/20. And he's asking the right questions. He says, I don't really know what to ask. So we just started that monthly engagement that I share with you, where we start
Yeah.
going through what are his problems, what he should be doing, what he's doing well, what his competitors are doing, what are the strategies we can do to get to the next level. And the way that he approaches is really smart. He knows what he doesn't know what he doesn't know, but he knows how to ask the right questions to figure it out.
Yeah, that's so good. One of my favorite books is by Keith Cunningham, The Road Less Stupid.
Mm.
And Keith has a line in there and he says something, so I'm going to butcher it, but it's basically say, finding the right answer is smart. Having the right question is brilliant.
Mm.
And I think too many times business owners don't take the time to think about the right questions like your prospects doing. Because when you
Mhm.
ask the right question, you're going to come up with the answer, the solution to go, that's what I need fixed. Now we can talk to Pete and say, here's what I need. Is that something you can do? Let's talk. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Dude, you and I think could go on for quite some time here. This is fascinating. I love how you structured everything. I love your risk reversal, the way you do the first month free, the way you do 90 days at half price, the mechanisms you got in place to help business owners really think about the strategy. And you've got so much background and knowledge that I know that you could come into probably any entrepreneur, have some conversations, asking some really good questions to bring clarity pretty quickly, find alignment, and then let's go. Now you can build the strategy that's going to take them to that next level through marketing.
Yeah,
That's awesome. How do
appreciate
people,
it.
well, you're welcome. It's really cool. It's refreshing. How do people find you, Pete? What's the best place to go if they say, yeah, I want to check some of those case studies out. I want to schedule a call. Where do they go?
Two places. LinkedIn's my favorite platform. As far as I know, I am the only Peter Murphy Lewis on LinkedIn. And you will, as soon as you find me, you'll see it. My favorite color is pink. My son calls me Papa Pink Pants. So you will see pink all over. If you're not a LinkedIn person and you want to book a call immediately, it's free on my website. It's strategicpete.com, and you will see all of my case studies there. You'll see all the PR and the podcasts and TV shows, and see about how I'm trying to figure out what I want to do when I get older, Michael. Still
I
trying to
love
figure it
it.
out. I'm 44 and I don't know what I'm going to do when I get old.
You know, you keep figuring it out and iterating and having fun because I'm a couple years older than you, and I have the same problem once in a while. And I think it's because God's given us so much passion and stuff that we just like, let's go. What's the future? You know, who knows?
Yeah.
But you know what? We're having fun while we're living it, and that's half the problem or half the battle. So, Peter Murphy Lewis, check him out on LinkedIn. I'm going to have that in the show notes as well as a link to strategicpete.com. And I love the way you show up there. You're just let me encourage my audience, just go to the website, go to LinkedIn, and look at just how he shows up, his images and things. So refreshing, so different, and it just makes you go, I already like the guy. Now let's have some conversation. So strategicpete.com, on LinkedIn, Peter Murphy Lewis. I'm gonna have all that in the show notes. Thank you, sir, for thanks for being my guest on Expert Speak. But thanks for doing what you do, the way you do it, and bringing all your brilliance to bear to help business owners, small and large, really understand the strategic aspect of marketing, how to make a big difference, how to bring in fractionals and do it right.
Appreciate it, Michael. Keep terrifying extroverts like me. You're doing a good job.
Thanks, brother. God bless. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to Experts Speak.